Hi, this is Charlie Setterfield. Today we are going to put together a commercial office building. So follow along with me click by click, and I will try to narrate everything that I do, but be ready with the pause button as well. So I'm going to start off with a new project here. So the purple R button, click that to get the drop down. Slide down to New, hover over New, and then slide over to Project. Click on Project. And I want to use the commercial template to do this project. So I'm going to click the Browse button here in my New Project dialog box. That opens up my Imperial Library here, and I'm going to click on the Commercial option. That's the one that I want, and then I'm going to click on Open. And if I want to prove to myself that that's the one that I got, then I can go into that destination window there on my dialog and scroll all the way over with my arrow key on my keyboard and see that it is commercial default. So I'm good, and it's going to create a new project for me, so I can click OK. And then it's going to chug along and give me a blank project. So this office building that I'm going to do, I want to make this thing 120 feet long and 60 feet deep. So to help myself get organized, I'm going to use a grid system to do that with. So the grid tool is on the Home tab. The Home tab is where we are by default when we open this thing. So I'm going to click on the grid tool, and the first one I'm going to do, I'm just going to draw a line down through here. So I click once to start the line, make sure it's at a right angle, and then once to stop it. Notice that it numbered it number 1 for me. That's good. And to make this thing straightforward and simple, I'm going to make a regular 20-foot grid. So I'm going to use the Pick Lines tool to place the rest of my north-south grid lines. So I click on Pick Lines, and I'm going to use the Offset tool, and I'm going to change that dimension to 20 feet. So now I've got a 20-foot offset, and it can be on either side of that line. So I have to be careful to make sure that I'm on the correct side of the line when I click to make these guys. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 120, there we go. Okay, so click Escape a couple of times to get out of that. And then I can zoom in a little bit and show you the numbers. So I've got grid lines 1 through 7 going on there. Now I'm going to place grid lines going east-west. So grid line tool again, and this time I have to draw my first one. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, starting on the west and going toward the east, and then click once to place it. Now I zoom in on that. I want to change that number. It's an 8 right now. I want to change that to a letter because I typically use letters in one direction, numbers in the other. So I'm going to make that an A. And what will happen when I place more grid lines is it'll continue the letters for me. So back to the Home tab, Grid Lines, Pick Lines, and my 20-foot offset again, and push that line. There you go. So yeah, now I've got a B. So there's 40 and 60 feet. Okay, so I am good to go with those. I've got my grid lines all arranged, and my project's more or less in the middle. Well, let's move it over a little bit. I'm going to grab this and move the whole thing just a little bit to the east so that it's more centered in my elevation marks there. So the next thing I want to do is organize my levels. So I've organized my horizontal project. I want to organize my vertical project as well. So I click on the north elevation here, double click to open it. And if I zoom in on my levels that come as the default levels in the commercial project, I've got a top of footing, bottom of footing, level 1, and roof. And I need to rearrange some, and I need to add some because I want a 2-story building and I want a parapet available for my roof. So I'm going to leave level 1 as it is at 0, and then my bottom of footing and top of footing, I don't need a 5-foot foundation wall, so I'm going to change this to be -4 instead of -5. And then my bottom of footing, I'm going to select that one and make that one -5. And that maintains the 1-foot thickness, which is what I want. Let me rearrange those guys just a little bit. But pulls those up a little bit. Now I could also move those if I wanted to. There are lots of different ways that I could rearrange those and get those to a different value. My roof, if I click on that one, that dimension wants to be 24 feet. So go ahead and change that one. And remember, my view extents are different, or my view depth is different on a roof plan versus a regular floor plan. So that's why I prefer to change the dimension rather than create a new roof level. So next thing I need to do is to add my second floor. So I click on Home, click on Level, click on Pick Lines, and I want a 12-foot offset here, and there's my level 2. It comes in at 12 feet, and now I just need to top a parapet that is 3 feet above my roof. So there you go. So now I've got a level 3 at 27 feet. If I select that, I can change this to TO parapet. Oops. Only if I can spell it. And rename the corresponding view. Yes. So I've done that. Now I just need to pull my grid lines up some to get those, because eventually I'll have a building sitting here. So I need to get my grid lines up out of the way so that my bubbles aren't on my surface of my building. So I'm looking pretty good. Let me shorten up these grid lines just to tighten it up so that when I pull these things onto a sheet, they won't be gargantuan drawings, hopefully. Okay. So your elevation should look something like that. Let's switch to an east elevation. I want to check and see if my grid lines came up on my east elevation. And nope, they did not. Grid lines are vertically adjustable in one direction or the other, either east, west, or north, south. They don't do both when you adjust them in the view. So I'll clean this guy up as well. There we go, now we're good. Okay, so we've got our project organized in terms of levels and grids. So now I'm going to go place some walls. I'm going to go back to my level 1 plan here. So double click on level 1, and I'm going to use the wall tool. And the wall that I want to place is going to be the EIFS or EIFS on metal stud. And I'm going to use the pick lines tool and an offset of 1 foot. So let me walk you through all of that. So this is what I've done so far. On the Home tab, I clicked on Wall. And then on my Properties, the drop down there, I clicked that, and I selected EIFS on Metal Stud. And in my Properties as well, I'm going to change my top constraint to TO Parapet, which is my bottom selection there. So my walls are going to be 27 feet high. That all looks right, so I click Apply there. And then back in my Place Wall tab, I'm going to use the Pick Lines tool and an offset of 1 foot. And then I'm just going to click on my outside grid lines, and notice that I'm careful to put my blue dashed line on the outside. And so when I zoom in to look at this, that's what it should look like. Let me turn on Fine Detail so that you can see the components of the wall. And indeed, my EIFS is on the outside, so I went clockwise. Life is good. So now I'm going to do some trimming to clean up those corners, because the walls come in exactly as long as the grid line that I clicked on. So Trim, click on the parts that we want to keep. So that corner trimmed the way it was supposed to. So let's go and check out some others here. Okay. So I've got my exterior walls. I'm going to go to my, let's go ahead and throw a floor in while we're here. So Home tab, Floor, and this first level can be a 4-inch concrete slab. Yeah, we'll just leave it like that. And on level 1, so I hover over one of my walls. It's defaulted to the Pick Walls tool. Hover over one and click the tab button or the tab key on your keyboard once, and that pre-select highlight you now see on the chain of walls. Go ahead and click once, and now I've got my pink lines, my boundary lines on all 4 walls. I'm going to zoom in here and see what it is that I'm looking at, and it looks like that's the exterior face of my stud. So that's good, that's what I want. I'm going to click the Finish button, or the green check mark, up in the ribbon. And so now I've got my floor there. And then I'm going to do that copy and paste aligned just to show you that tool. So my floor is blue because it's still selected. I haven't clicked any place to cancel that selection. So it's still selected. I'm going to click the copy to clipboard command up here in the ribbon. And then I'm going to use the paste aligned to selected level. So I click the drop down underneath paste. And it's the second option there, aligned to selected levels. And I'm going to put that on level 2 and click OK. So now if I go and look at this thing in 3D and turn on some shaded, and maybe I'll turn on my section box here so that I can show you quickly. If I pull this guy back, show you that indeed I do have 2 floors there. So my bottom one is going to be a slab on grade. My top one, this guy here, probably wants to change types. So I select it, click the drop down there, and I'm going to make it the 3-inch lightweight concrete on 2-inch metal deck. And someday when we play around with structure, that'll make that all make sense. So I think I'm good. And so that's probably a good place to end this first video and get you a chance to catch up, and then we'll move on to video number 2 here.